Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth annual and first virtual Geek and Comic Con at the Evansville Museum. We have a very exciting Q&A video for you today. Mr. Kent Estep has agreed to join us. Kent has been creating visual effects for feature films, commercials, and video games for over 25 years. In addition to his current project, How to Train Your Dragon 3, past feature film credits include The Matrix, Air Force One, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Fast and Furious 8, The Box Trolls, Avengers Age of Ultron, and Paranorman. Ken has also created cinematics for the Overwatch, StarCraft, World of Warcraft, and Hearthstone video game franchises. Currently an effects technical director at DreamWorks, Mr. Estep has previously worked for Sony Pictures, Industrial Light and Magic, Leica, Digital Domain, Blizzard Entertainment, and Tippett Studio. He is a graduate of the University of Evansville School of Engineering, a member of the Visual Effects Society, and the Animation Guild. Thank you so much for being here today, Ken.
Thank you, thank you. Thanks for having me, and virtually at least, thanks for having me virtually.
I think we sent out questions on the event's Facebook and told people you're going to be part of this virtually and asked them what questions they could ask a Hollywood special effects person, and so we're all really excited to be able to ask you questions and pick your brain.
Gotcha. All ready to answer.
Excellent. Well, the first question, this is actually for me. What's a typical day at work like for you?
Typically, if it's today, working from home, basically I log into my computer in Los Angeles. I start pulling up shots. So basically every morning, you pull up all the shots that you're doing for a day in a movie. Like, for example, the last shot I worked on of Croods 2, which is actually the movie I just finished with, it was a bunch of sand. So I pull up the sand shots and I see basically what the computer has rendered for me last night. So basically every night when you go home, you give the computer a big, nice problem to solve. In this case, it's doing a bunch of sand around some characters I had. So basically first thing in the morning, you get in and you check the work you've done last night. And if you like it, then you submit it to what we call rounds, which is where everyone from our show gets together and we look at all the work people have submitted, and we decide, okay, this is good, this is not good. We look at it, we critique it. If it's really good, then we send it to what's called dailies, which is where the director sees it and the supervisors see it. And when it's in dailies, if they all like it and it's approved, that's how it ends up in the movie. So usually we do dailies like maybe 3 times a week, but we do rounds every day. So again, we do something where we look at the work ourselves in our own little group and we decide, oh, this is good enough, to show to the director. And then we show it to dailies. And then the director sees it and decides, yes, this is good enough to go in the movie. Or he decides, I don't like this. Here's what you want to change. Here's what you want to do. So it's kind of an iterative process where, we have our own little look at it. Then the director has his look at it, and hopefully if all is right, it just ends up and it goes into the movie.
Very cool. So it's a collaborative process with your colleagues. They would share their input. And
correct.
Very cool.
And usually a lot of times, that's where you also develop different techniques where, you may, it's all about how you approach the problem. And someone may have approached that same problem before and knows all the pitfalls and tells you, okay, here's what you want to address. Here's how I think you should do it. Or maybe you did it perfect and it's great. And then they ask you how you did it because they want to use that same technique. It's very much a collaborative effort. And it's very much a shared kind of, not shared experience, but, a shared workload. So when people see what you're doing, they offer their help, they offer their suggestions, and that's how we plow through everything.
That's awesome. And you mentioned you're working on sand. Is there a type of element that's like fire or water or sand that's really difficult?
There used to be, when I first started in maybe the mid to late 90s, we all laughed because we never thought a computer would be able to simulate fire or water or anything that organic in our lifetime. And here it is 25 years later, and I can generate water in 5 minutes on my computer that I guarantee you cannot tell the difference from reality. So the computer has just been catching up so fast. And now even sand, like in this latest sand sim, I have something like 50 million grains of sand in the shot, and you would think that it's going to choke a computer. No, it takes the computer about 3 hours to figure that all out. And even now they have a newer technique that's coming, which is going to be, you know, a billion grains of sand or a billion pieces of debris. And once that's all finalized, you know, it takes a while where people come up with theories how these elements work and this debris works. Once it's all finalized and they make it into an algorithm that the computer can understand, I mean, it's like limitless what we could simulate now.
Wow. That's really cool. I remember, I think it was when Lord of the Rings came out, it was a big deal. There was CGI fire in that. I remember that. That's really amazing
Yes.
how it's all grown.
The crazy thing is I remember working on, or I did not work on that, but I was at a studio that worked on it, and we got in the bid to do the fire in the Eye of Sauron.
Mhm.
And we saw all the work that Weta Digital had done, the studio that had done that. And at first we thought, oh man, it's kind of crazy that they did all this fire and made it look that real. And then we're slowly, as we pulled it apart, we're just like, we could do this too. We just never thought about it before because, you know, we never thought the day would come that, oh, we can do fire. But lo and behold, then that day comes and you're just kind of like in shock.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. And my next question is, have you gotten to meet any celebrities? Now, you're a celebrity to me, so that, but I think the people who asked that was like, you know, Hollywood actors or anything.
Right. You know, you meet them all the time. You know, I tell people Hollywood is kind of like high school, you know, and I'm kind of at the freshman level. So you see the seniors who are like the big directors and the big actors, and you see them, and it's just like high school. Sometimes, you know, do freshmen talk to seniors? Well, not usually, but it depends on how cool and how fun they are. And I was actually just relating a story to someone yesterday about the time I met Harrison Ford on the set of Air Force One. And it was crazy because, you know, in between takes of movies, usually the actors head back to their trailers and just hang out, whether they go on the cell phone, whether they go to make a call to someone or they want to get their makeup redone. Usually as soon as they call a break on set, you just hear this people run off, which are the A-list actors who run back to their trailers to hide away. And they use stand-in replacements if they're going to do any like lineup shots in between. So I was sitting down at the bottom of the stairs below they built a like mock gimbal of the big Air Force One.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm sitting there standing next to this stand where they record the audio, this guy comes down the stairs really slowly and picks up a fishing magazine from the stand. And I'm just thinking, oh, this must be part of the crew because, you know, all the actors are gone. And I turn my head to go back to say hi to this guy, and it's Harrison Ford, who's standing right there. And I was just like, all right. You know, it's those types of people, you know, you can say hi to, they're very friendly to, they're very open to talk to. Other types, you know, just run off, you know what I mean? Those are the types that the freshmen wouldn't talk to, you know, they're seniors, they know they're seniors. I'm not going to lower myself or something talking to a freshman. But, you know, over the years, I mean, I've ran into Harrison Ford actually again 2 years ago when Steven Spielberg, and I saw Steven Spielberg at the time, I was working at Digital Domain and they were working on Ready Player One, which is a show I love, even though, you know, it's got its flaws, but I still love that movie. And Steven Spielberg had brought Harrison Ford over to show him all the virtual rigs they had set up to do some of the virtual filming for Ready Player One. So I was just going back to my desk and there's some people behind me and it's a super secure building. So this door closes every time you come through it and you have to scan through. So I'm like, oh, there's some people behind me. I hold the door open and it's Steven Spielberg and Harrison Ford coming in. And I'm like, all right, whatever, you know, just another day. So yeah, you run into them all the time, but it's again, one of those things where it's just like you run into someone in the street, you know, if they engage you, maybe you want to talk to them. If they don't, just leave it alone.
Oh, that's awesome. It's nice to hear Harrison Ford is a nice person. I'm a big fan, so that's good to hear.
Yes.
Very cool. So, how'd you get interested in doing special effects?
I was actually working in Salt Lake City for a company that did plotting software of all things for AutoCAD, because when I was in school at UE, I'd taken the CAD design course and I had co-opted at an engineering firm that did a lot of work at Alcoa. So a lot of the engineering work is with AutoCAD drawings, how you manage everything. And at the time I was working with this company that was using AutoCAD, and they got in a new piece of software from Autodesk, who's the company that makes AutoCAD, called 3D Studio. And 3D Studio is basically a piece of software that let you render photorealistic images. At the time, it wasn't anything great because it was just mainly used for like subtitling text on TV shows or maybe architectural visualization, nothing that was meant to actually end up in a movie or something. But I found myself playing around with it quite a bit. And I just thought, man, this software is really amazing. You can create some amazing images. And so I just kept playing around with it. I'd create buildings, I'd create text and titles, stuff like that. And the more I got into it, the more I found it really interesting. And at the time, there was really no schools that taught it. So for some reason, I came to Los Angeles one time and I was talking to my friend and I mentioned that I did all that work. And he's just like, oh yeah, because we're looking for someone that needs to drop this in for a movie we're working on. And then it all kind of clicked. I'm like, wow, that's the 3D Studio was kind of like the beginnings of, the bigger software packages that came along, like Alias and Wavefront, some other original software packages that were used in the movies. And so 3D Studio was another package like that. And as long as you had that experience, which was a rarity at the time, you just got gobbled up by places that are like, oh my God, we need to do CG. You know how to do this, come on in. So that's how I got the first job at Boss Films was I showed them my demo reel of like various things in 3D Studio. I did not know any of the software they were using, but they saw that I could put together these images well and it looked good. So they're just like, come on, we'll hire you and we'll teach you the software as you go along. So that was the beginnings of it.
Wow, that's really cool. So I would imagine problem solving and the ability to kind of to go about how do I make this is a very important skill in your profession.
It is, even to this day, Houdini is what I use now. And again, any of the software, Houdini is one of the latest ones you can just go download for free and try it out. It's exactly that. It's a blank slate. It's up to you to figure out, how you want to do things. I was going to mention that like one of the last shots I did was I can't give too much away, but it's a bird that hits the lens of the camera. And so how would you do that? It's one of those things where I was presented with this problem. Well, the bird hits the camera and the bird, kind of like falls off the camera to the ground, you know what I mean? After he like makes this real weird expression, because he's like knocked himself out. It's like, how would I do that? And it's just that kind of problem solving to this day that, you really need from a technical background for a technical person like me, not an animator, but more of a technical director person, that it's just like, how do I solve this problem? So you just start with what you have and you try to figure it out. And at first I didn't know what I was doing in the shot, but after a week you figure out what works and what doesn't, and you just put it together and solve the problem.
Oh, awesome. And one of the questions that somebody asked on Facebook was how your engineering background has played a role. So it gave you a lot of the AutoCAD experience.
Yes, AutoCAD experience, I would say definitely a lot of problem solving. We definitely learned a little bit of software coding as well, just a little bit in engineering. You had like few semesters of it. And that helps a lot too, because we still use like Python. There's various other languages that pop up that we use on a daily basis at work. And like Houdini has its own built-in language as well that's very similar to like C or Python or something like that. So it's helped because it's a problem-solving thing. And I was just thinking about this morning, how I look at it is from an engineering background, they teach you to solve problems. Whereas on our movies, we also have the creative side, which they don't solve problems, they create problems for us. They come up with new things, they create wacky stuff that no one could ever imagine. And then they dump it on us and say, hey, this is what we want. Can you solve these problems? Because, they've just gone overboard with what they've created. So that's why I find it neat, because I don't really consider myself that creative a person. But when I get creative problems from the other side that I have to solve, then I do kind of think of myself as creative because I'm having to solve these problems, which are almost impossible. But, we have to figure out a way to solve them because that's what they want to put in the movie. So the engineering background has helped just because, again, it's about problem solving. It's about that. What's the term I'm looking for? Just the thinking problems through the iterative process of, here's a solution I think I have. Can I make it work? And if not, you go back and tweak it, try to make it work. So that's helped quite a bit. In the math too, even Houdini today, I have a trigonometry cheat sheet at my desk that I have to refer to at times when I'm writing some crazy equations for motion. So that's helped in engineering as well. The math background has definitely helped as well.
Oh, very cool. That's awesome. I like how you combine there's the creative aspect and the problem solving and how they work together. And there's a lot of different avenues people could pursue if they'd like to work in film and Hollywood.
Yes, and what's crazy is, I find myself in the middle because at times they will give me something that I need to create, like, hey, we don't know how to make this that great. Can you come up with some ideas to make it look funnier or a better looking gag or something like that? So it's a spectrum, and we have our technical directors, which are the far left of the technical spectrum, nothing creative whatsoever. Whereas I think of our animators and some of our storyboard artists as the far right. Those are the pure creative types. But we need the whole spectrum. We have people all across that can solve various levels of creative aspect of it, but a little bit of technical stuff as well. So it's great that, if you have both of those skills or a balance of those skills, you can definitely find a place to fit into in the production pipeline.
Awesome. Awesome. I was wondering, do you have a favorite movie you have worked on? And are you allowed to have, say a favorite movie?
It's really funny because some of the favorite movies you worked on actually turns out to be the worst movies when they come out. And then some of the worst movies you worked on turn out to be the best when they come out. And I'll throw The Matrix into that realm. I had some of the best of times on that show. I had some of the worst of times on that show. But during that show, had you asked me if I thought it was going to be a good movie, I did not know until it came out what it was going to be because they kind of hid it all from us. Oh. But as for a favorite movie, I would have to say probably Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs because those directors were great guys. They were fun to work with. Chris, as I'm going to get them all, I just know them as Phil and Chris, although it's I think Chris Lord and Phil Miller or reverse that.
Yeah, they did the Lego movie too, right?
Yes, they did the Lego movie as well, but they're very involved. They love feedback from people. So if you had something that you thought was funnier, they were totally on board with listening to your idea, and if they liked it, they would totally go along with it. And actually, if you want to see a little bit of how creative and fun it was, if you go onto YouTube, they have a video they created with Andy Samberg. They did the kind of a behind the scenes of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And you watch that video, it's just everyone having fun. And that's what made that movie so fun and I think so good is that it was such a great experience. They were a joy to deal with. Everyone in the movie had fun. I can't think of one person I knew that just wasn't having the time of their life on that movie. It was, I did exploding gummy bears. I did glitter explosions. I did a giant turkey leg destroying a building with Mr. T in the foreground. It was just so fun that it's all how the directors were into it. It made it so much more fun and so much of a joy to work on. I would definitely say probably by far and away, that was my favorite movie to work on. Although DreamWorks has been the same way. I got to say the shows I've worked on at DreamWorks have also been that way. Trolls, Dragon, Croods now. It's all been a fun crew. Everyone loves what they're doing, and it's been totally enjoyable. Now, we don't have quite the level of input like we have with the Cloudy guys, with the directors, but the directors are on campus, and we do get to talk to them, and it's a blast as well. But I'd have to put Cloudy a little bit higher than the stuff I've done at DreamWorks.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love hearing, behind the scenes of a movie is just as fun as watching it. That's such a great feeling that everyone had a fantastic time.
Yes.
Oh, very cool. Let's see. So we talked a little bit about your engineering background and also playing around with different programs. Do you have any career preparedness tips you'd give to anyone who's thinking about going into this career?
If you do, like I said, all of the software we use is out there and you can download for free. And there's tutorials for it. It's just a matter of learning it and, it's a tool and sharpening your skills up to how you want to use it and how you know or figure out how you can use it. Houdini is the biggest. It's made by Side Effects Software. Again, you can download it for free on their website. Now the new big thing, which we'll go into here in another question, but is Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is another piece of software. Again, you can download for free. You can create content for it either through Houdini or through Maya, which is another one of the major software packages our industry uses. And you can dump stuff into Unreal Engine and basically look at it on your phone or on your computer. It's basically a 3D engine where you feed it all the shapes, all the geometry, all the textures and lighting that you create. And again, there's so many tutorials out there. And in fact, Unreal is offering people, I think, classes right now for free just to learn their software so that they become, the dominant 3D engine in the marketplace right now. But it's all free. It's all fun to play around with, and you can find so many resources. And if you don't know the answer to something, there's plenty of news groups you can find. Like in Houdini, we use this one called Odd Force, which is ran by a former technical director who does exactly what I do. And when I have problems, I go to those boards and I look for answers, or I ask questions on those boards. And there's nothing that prevents anyone else from going out there and asking those same questions, or, you know, asking, hey, do you know a good tutorial to look at for water? Or do you know a good tutorial to look at for fire? You know, you can totally find those out there, and you can totally find people that can answer those questions for you.
Very cool. So that's neat. People can start experimenting and giving it a try. Oh, very
Yes.
cool.
Yep.
Let's see. Oh, somebody specifically, a big fan of The Matrix, they asked, what scene was the most challenging to film from a special effects approach in The Matrix?
The craziest one is burned into my brain. It's called GR22, and GR stands for Government Rooftop Shot 22. And of course, where Neo bends over with the bullets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that has been the craziest shot to work on ever. And it was just neat now because actually I've had to bring back some of the work from that, because the Academy is actually going to do at the Academy Museum a whole bullet time retrospective. You know, I'm not sure when it's going to open since we have all this craziness now, but they're going to open a whole display there where they relive bullet time and everything else. That was the most challenging because at the time, you know, nothing like that had been attempted. Today, you know, you could do it in any number of ways and do it in like a tenth of the time it took us back then. But back then, you know, we had 100 still cameras that took different pictures. We had to do interpolations between each camera where, you know, we had a still camera here and a still camera here, but we needed to create a frame in between them, which was like a blend of the two. So that at the time was just crazy stuff that took, you know, a lot of manual work, a lot of crazy thinking, and just a lot of late nights to get it through. And that Government Rooftop shot was the craziest of them all. And now what's funny is I tell people, because there's a lot of things they don't realize. There's two things about that shot that are funny. Number one is it's the same camera motion from the subway shot where Agent Smith and Neo grab each other in midair with the guns.
Okay.
If you look at the motion, because it's the same camera rig that we use for both shots, where it just rotates around both of the people. The second funny thing is, you know, if you watch the movie, the shot right before the GR22 shot, Trinity is standing on the rooftop. However, if you look at that shot, she is nowhere in frame. She's like completely gone from the rooftop. And we did not realize that until the very end of the shot. You know, when we're working on the shot, it's almost done. And I casually mentioned to someone, hey, you know, Trinity is on the roof 2 shots earlier, and she's nowhere in the shot. So we all laughed about it and just said, you know what, we're just going to forget it. So she's gone from that shot and then shows up again 2 shots later.
Oh,
so, whatever.
I'll have to rewatch the movie because I know exactly the scenes you're talking about, and I've never noticed that.
She's not in frame. She's there 2 shots earlier, and then she just disappears for 2 shots, and then she comes back.
Oh, that's funny. And that is, like, to me, that's the iconic shot of The Matrix. That's the one in all the trailers. So that's really cool.
It's just funny, every year at the Oscars, they do like a little retrospective thing, and that shot seems to always make it in there. And I just think, you know, now it's been 22 years ago since I worked on that show, and, you know, you can't escape it. It just follows you everywhere. And people will still come up to me sometimes after they meet me at work or something and say, you worked on The Matrix? And I'm like, oh God, here we go again. So who knows?
That's cool. I guess I'm kind of doing that too. It's like, you worked on The Matrix. And
right, exactly.
That's awesome. Let's see. So kind of some questions about where special effects are headed. Where do you see the future of special effects going?
Well, obviously right now, you know, even before the whole craziness that we were experiencing right now, virtual production had come of age. If you look at The Mandalorian, if you look at any of the behind the scenes of The Mandalorian, and this was from a year or two ago, you know, virtual production was definitely going to make, you know, giant strides in Hollywood. And for sure now, especially since they want to limit the number of people on set and they kind of want to limit set size, you know, it's only gone up exponentially since all this began. And again, one of the things that's going to be key in this is that Unreal Engine I spoke of, because it's a way to quickly visualize stuff where you can basically be on set and have someone there against a green screen. But yet if you look through your headset, like an Oculus or some other VR device like that, you can see the whole set that's created in Unreal Engine behind them. And you can move your head, you can frame the camera like you want. It's just rapidly becoming reality. Cameron tried it first. If you look back on the first avatars, he was kind of a pioneer with that, with the virtual camera system, where he would shoot a lot against green and have like a rudimentary background behind it, so he knew how to frame the shots. Well, the Mandalorian pushed it even further. Again, if you go on YouTube or something, you can see behind the scenes where they show their production techniques. And then when all this came about, then Unreal Engine and virtual production has just taken off. So now, where maybe a year ago, it really didn't matter. You really didn't, if someone had Unreal Engine experience, that was good, but it's a bonus. It really wasn't required. Going forward, I have no doubt that Unreal Engine and a few of those other real-time engines are going to factor heavily into Hollywood production, because again, they don't have to build the sets as big. They can limit the number of people on set. It just makes things a lot easier for them, and easier for them means they're going to use it.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. So in theory, somebody might be able to enter this industry and not live in Los Angeles. They could live in Evansville.
Oh, correct. There's no doubt. I mean, now I'm staring down the next, even though I'm getting ready to go work on my next movie, I will be working from home for the next 2 years, or not 2 years, 2 months at least. Mm-hmm. But there is no doubt. I mean, I did kind of a brief impromptu survey among some friends that work in the industry, and half to 3/4 are located at home, and half of them were not in Los Angeles. They were in the greater LA area. Some were further out. Like I had a friend in Iowa. I'm here in Owensboro. You have people in various locations, and it really hasn't been a hindrance. That's, even though I do miss seeing my friends every day, that's the roughest part, is that I have a lot of my work friends I don't see. But other than that, I have, our department has suffered no lapse in productivity because of all this, working from home. Now, I know there's some other cases where if they have kids or something, my friends with kids, or have, a challenging home environment, they've experienced stuff. But for me personally, I haven't had that. And it's just crazy to think that, yes, there's now no difference between me working from my sister's garage here in Owensboro and controlling my desk computer in Los Angeles, or actually sitting at my desk computer in Los Angeles. So there's definitely, it's going to happen. I have no doubt that virtual production, spread workforce production is definitely coming faster than in some cases we want it to.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's fantastic. And that's kind of, exciting, especially with the pandemic. Some industries can keep going, and
yes.
So that's fantastic. I think that's all the questions I had. Did you have anything you'd like to add to the end of this? This has been fantastic.
Not really. It's just been really fun. I'm sad we have to do this virtually this year, but I'm sure next year we'll be back to the in-person thing. I was just going to add, if anyone had any questions, feel free to mail me or contact me. I love answering questions. One of the guys last year I just got back in touch with, who sent me his demo reel, and I was just giving him tips for that. So I'm totally open to that as well. Again, it's just all the software that I use. Like I said, you can download Maya, Houdini, Unreal Engine, any of those software pieces you can totally download for free. Learn yourself, and there's nothing that prevents you from getting a job that way. And now, since everything seems to be going this virtual route, you can have a virtual interview and probably get a virtual job and start your way there. So it's been pretty, crazy fun at the same time, maybe. But I just want us next year to just all be in person again there at the museum.
I hope so too. I really do. It's more fun when we get to be together.
For sure.
Well, thank you very much for your time and sharing your tips and stories. It's been great.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.